Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host. Today, I'm the host and the guest. We're going to talk about the power to change. Now, are you happy with the direction of your country, your state, your county, your city, your schools? Well, I'm not. And we do have the power to change. I see our country being run by officials that seem to be hell-bent on power. Gaining power, retaining power, and expanding power. And that's the big deal. We need leaders is what we need. We don't need dictators. We don't need people that are egotists. We need leaders. A good example of a great leader was George Washington. Now, he had a lot of popularity, and a lot of people wanted him to be king. Look it up in the history books. They wanted him to be king. Well, they just got away from Britain, and they knew that that wasn't a good idea, but so many people thought so much of George Washington that they promoted him as king, and he said, I want no part of it. He wanted to be a leader, and he was a great leader. So he had the popularity, but he didn't want to be a ruler. He wanted to be a leader. During his campaign against Britain, there had to be divine intervention. Now, there were so many times, I've read history, and there were so many campaigns in the Continental armies that we should have not won these battles. And yet, maybe a storm came up that blocked the enemy. He surprised the Hessians in Trenton when he crossed the Delaware. There's no way he should have been able to cross the Delaware at that time with the snow and the ice. So God intervened. George Washington and our founding fathers were men, and the women were godly people. And it paid off because, like I said, we should have never won against Britain in many of the campaigns. So God has always been a part of our country from the beginning. I mean, we have God's name inscribed into our oldest universities. We have God's name on our currency. God's name is mentioned and directly and indirectly in our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence. So, do you think there's a correlation between how poorly our country is being run now and the fact that we've thrown God out of everything? We took God out of our schools. We took him out of our sports. We've taken him out of our politics. It's like, I know that we're not being cursed, but we are not being blessed either. So, when we left Britain's control, God was on our side. And the godlessness that we're facing now, I know, is a repercussion. And it's showing in the dissatisfaction we have among our families. Our churches are not really standing up. They're not speaking out when they should. Some are, but a lot are not. And we're in a battle. And the battle isn't against flesh and blood. Our battle is against corruption and ignorance. Now, the corruption is, you got these big money people, world money people, that are the puppet masters that control elections through their money, through campaign donations. And there's an evil behind this, in my belief. And that evil is about power. I mentioned that earlier. And the power is corrupting other people. These people want this power, they want to retain the power, they want to expand the power. But you also have ignorance, which is a big player here. So you have some people that are ignorant to what's going on, but they're seduced by this power, and they're also seduced by the sounds of socialism. It sounds nice. Social everything. But instead of a government that actually creates dependency on the government and makes parasites of the people, socialism is a way to tell you that the government's going to take care of you from birth till your grave. Well, it doesn't work that way. And socialism might start out nice, and it might sound great, but you're going to have people that are willing to work because of their work ethic. It's just natural in them to be hard workers. But even after a while, they're going to get tired of carrying the lazy on their backs. So that's going to fail. Even if we got that far and we got into socialism, the next step is communism. That's total dependency on the government for everything. The government will let you go just so far and tell you what you're going to do, what kind of job you're going to have. You're going to serve the state. So this is the progression from our free market enterprise, which we have now, system. Socialism is the next step towards communism, and then we've lost it. And we're heading in that direction. And you know, the people that might rebel against this, they're not going to be around too long. You've heard of indoctrination camps or re-indoctrination or re-education camps. This happens over in China. It's not going to work. And I hope that people can wake up and see what's going on. So we have two political parties, two major political parties in the United States. Now, some people say that, no, they're the same political party, they're the same group, just different names. Well, that could be so. And there are people that appear to be Democrats that are Republicans and vice versa. So, you know, it's a matter of identifying really what's going on, what is your affiliation, and do you really understand how your party works? So I would say I'm going to just talk to both of those political parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. To my Republican friends, I would say, what are you doing to change this situation? Now, if you're texting on your phone, yelling at somebody, a Democrat or a liberal, are you really doing anything? Do you really think you're making a difference here? You're just aggravating people. No, you need to get engaged, get involved. I know many of my friends ran for office. That's a big job. I ran for Senate last general election. It's a tough job, but it's worth doing because our country's worth saving. Now, you don't have to go that far. You don't have to run for office. I mean, some people don't even vote, and that's the most important thing you can do. But there's a whole lot more you can do. If you're a conservative like me, call your local conservative party. See what's going on. See if you can help. Contact your county clerk's office. Tell them you want to be a poll worker. The best way to ensure a fair and honest election and that your vote is going to count and count correctly is to be a poll watcher or a poll worker. You could be a judge. I've been a presiding judge twice, a judge of elections twice, a clerk. Any of these things you can be taught. It's not that hard to do. And you are there on the ground floor of where the election's taking place, at least the incoming ballots. There's other responsibilities you can get involved in. But you could also help out a candidate. If you get well-versed in what the issues are, who the candidates are that are running, whether they're incumbents or whether these are new candidates, or maybe they're both new candidates from differing parties. Either way, do some research and find out about them. The research is out there. I mean, we have the internet. It is a vast wealth of information that we can tap into. You can get so much information. And once you get that information, I always feel like when I have information, now I'm obligated to do something with it. Or if I find something's wrong, I'm obligated to do something to change it. So, and it's it's exciting to get involved. It makes you feel empowered when you actually engage with the political system. You're no longer wondering what's going on, and you're no longer complaining over a beer or a cup of coffee without doing something, because now you know what's going on, and you are making a difference. So, to my Republican friends, to my conservative friends, get involved. And my Democratic friends, and I have many Democratic friends, and we have playful banter back and forth about different ideologies, but I have to wonder, my Democratic friends, are you really pleased with an open southern border? I mean, to me, that doesn't even make sense. Legal immigration, to me, does make sense. With an open southern border, and basically ours is open. Our governor took away, well, I think she was in office 1 month. We had National Guard troops on our southern border. The first month or second month she was in office, she pulled our National Guard troops off the southern border with Mexico. And the 6 other states that sent National Guard troops to support our troops on the southern border, she told them to go back to their states. They weren't needed. I don't see her asking for National Guard troops from other states or putting them down there. It's the same governor. Grisham is still the governor, and I don't think she believes there's an issue with the southern border. First, you have illegals, which is a crime in itself. Other people have been waiting in line for a long time to become citizens, to come into the U.S., to work. They have to wait their turn, but the illegals come in at will. You've got crime that's coming in. Some of those people are not the best people in the world. There are some criminals that are sneaking in. There's probably some terrorists that are sneaking in from the Middle East or wherever. You have disease. Those people crossing the border, they're not being checked for COVID. But we have to wear masks and our businesses are shut down. So I'm trying to paint a picture for my Democratic friends. Do you see what your party's doing here? So do you really think the Democratic Party is justified and want to take away your personal protection in the form of a firearm? It's a violation of our Constitution. You have the right to keep and bear arms. And yet, the Democrats want to take your guns away. They think that's going to solve a problem. I remember a friend of mine, John Mott, he passed away not too long ago, a dear friend of mine. He said when you outlaw guns, only outlaws will have guns. It's as plain as that. So they're not taking my gun away. They'll take it away by the barrel end. But the Democratic Party wants to do these things that aren't really going to solve a problem. Again, that party seems to be hell-bent on keeping control, gaining control, and expanding that control. Me, as a conservative, I want to allow the people to make decisions, engage the population, the voters. But the voters, you folks, have to be involved in the process as well. You have to understand what the issues are. You have to know who the candidates are. You have to vote your conscience. Now, here in Doña County in southern New Mexico, we have a population, a Hispanic population that's about 70% of our population. I am a minority. I'm an old white guy. So I know with the Hispanic community, they're very strong in their family values. They're traditional Christians. They have a strong work ethic. They want to work. I mean, when I lived in Philadelphia, we had groundskeepers and people that worked in the mushroom industry in Pennsylvania. They worked their tails off. They were hard workers, out in the midday sun working. These are hardworking people, the Hispanic community, strong family values, churchgoers, godly people. They're Democrats, and it's like, what? But they're Democrats, I believe, because their parents and grandparents were Democrats. They were John F. Kennedy Democrats. They were Christian people, and they still keep that tradition. I know in my own family that my wife, when she got a call from her sister after Trump was elected, her sister said, I hate to ask you this, but did you and Dave vote for Trump? And my wife said, yeah, we did. And her sister started screaming on the phone, said, I can't be your sister anymore, and slammed the phone down. Now, this is family. So I understand how hatred towards a certain person or a certain party can really tear a family apart. And I wouldn't want that. So I would say to my Democratic Hispanic friends that are Democrats by tradition, you can be a Democrat, but when you go to the voting booth, vote your conscience, vote your traditional values. So, again, do you really want to affiliate with a party that is taking away your rights through of the Constitution, the Second Amendment, is allowing your borders to be open where anything can come through, crime, drugs, human trafficking, disease that is unchecked? I mean, we haven't had cases of polio, tuberculosis, but that's coming through the border. And the COVID. I mean, so you want to rethink your party. And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll discuss more about how you can get involved, because you do have the power to change. You don't know it, but you do have the most power in changing. And that comes with elections. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes after a short break.
If your loved one has passed away due to COVID-19, pay close attention to this message. You could be entitled to a death benefit of over $300,000. The U.S. government has set up a fund to pay families relief if they've lost a loved one due to COVID-19. The compensation includes a death benefit and lost wages benefit. Time is limited, so we urge you to make a free phone call right now. There's no cost to you for this claim. That's 866-372-3669.
When the school board mismanages its financial fiduciary obligations, does not respect the will of the community, and pursues misguided policies not reflective of the community, we lose our trust and our parents deserve more. School board members are accountable for the regulations and policies they pursue. As these regulations and policies are debated, full transparency must occur in the deliberations with parents and the community. Trust is earned when the school board demonstrates its adherence to the will of the community. Join me in restoring accountability and transparency. I'm Eloy Francisco Macha, School Board District 3.
Paid for by Macha for House BS.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and today I'm also the guest. I got to thinking at the break, maybe I'm attacking the Democratic Party too much, and I don't mean to do that. I have so many friends that are Democrats. I happen to be a Republican, and I wonder about that sometimes too. Because, there were a couple of people that I really respected in the Democratic Party, the John Arthur Smith and Mary Kay Papen, two good senators, and I really like them. I even like Greg Smith. He's a progressive in Las Cruces, but he's a good man. I think what it is I think that maybe the Democrats, or I shouldn't even say Democrats, but the progressive people are misinformed, and I don't think they think real heavily on what the repercussions are with the desires to be a social organization, to give and give and give. I mean, I know people from all parties that are so generous and so giving. And I sit down with a lot of my friends that are Democrats and we argue back and forth. But basically, I know I could count on them if I ever needed anything. So again, I don't mean to beat up the Democrats. Now, the Democratic Party, the ideology that is behind this, that's pushing the issues, the open border issues, the Second Amendment, withdrawing our Second Amendment rights, abortion. I can never sanction an abortion. There's always a way out. It might not be a good way out for the parties involved, but it's a responsibility as well. And there are people that want to adopt. And there's information coming out that some people would say that the babies are aborted to further a money-making scheme. Now, it's possible. So I guess I want people to think about what it is that they're voting on. And really, that's the whole business of how we're going to save our country, is getting educated. That what's going on in our schools is unbelievable to me. Now, nationally, we hear about this critical race theory. And here in Doñana County, in the Las Cruces public school system, there was I think it's called JBC, Excellence and Equity in Our School System. But I'll tell you, a lot of people are saying, whoa, wait a minute, this is the beginnings of critical race theory. Now, I know personally a school board member, and I've talked to her and asked her, don't you think this is moving in that direction? And she says, well, I don't know, this is the way that it's heading. And really, do we want to create division in our schools? Because that's what it's going to do. It's going to pit one child of one skin color against a child of another skin color. It's going to make victims when there are no victims. I remember I went to a school board meeting and I said, when they were talking about this JBC policy, And I said, where are the complaints from the parents or the students that they've been oppressed? And of course, they don't have any complaints. At least they didn't produce any at that time. And I said, so where's this policy coming from? I can only imagine it's coming from the National Union, the School Teachers Union. I think it's the NEA. You know, Ronald Reagan, when he was president, he issued a command for a study on our failing education system. And the bottom line, the reason it was failing was because the unions were too involved. They would think it was the National Teachers Union and there was two teachers unions. Both of them were so heavily involved in electing politicians that would set policy for schools that it was out of control. And it hasn't gotten any better since. So I think the name of the white paper that was produced was called Nation in Crisis. And I think there was a couple books written about that too. And it's about pitting people against each other. Any political party that has to create an enemy, they're creating an enemy to create division. And once they create that division, then the parties that are offended ask the government to fix it. And this is the whole end game of the political party that does that. They will create an enemy, point to that enemy, and say, you've been a victim of this enemy. Now we're going to create division. So whether it's a division of the sexes, or homo versus hetero, or the rich versus the poor, or the people of color versus those white people, it's always about dividing. When really what we want to do is unify. What do we have in common, not what our differences are? And this critical race theory actually creates the division of races. Now, if a child is being oppressed, absolutely, you go and you make a complaint to the school administrator. If they don't take care of it, you go to the local police. If they don't take care of it, you go to the news media. There are ways to go. And there's also the ACLU would be glad to take a case when there's oppression involved in students or race problems or things like that. I was a cop in Philadelphia in the 70s. We had racial problems. We had riots going on in Philadelphia, California, New York. We had a police force that knew how to handle the riots at that time. We had I call him a general. His name was Frank Rizzo, an amazing guy. He was a no-nonsense cop that came up from the highway patrol, which was, they called it Motor Bandit, where he rode a motorcycle. He was one tough Italian, I'll tell you. There's a famous picture of him coming out of a wedding with a nightstick in his cummerbund, and it's when the Black Panthers were rioting on Columbia Avenue. Now, I wasn't on the job at that time. I think that was 69. I came on in 71. But he cleared house. He had them stripped, almost naked, to where you couldn't find any weapons. He marched them into the police wagons, took them down to the police administration building and booked them. That stopped the riots in Philadelphia, but that's what you needed. Here in our city council, they're defunding the police. Now, they might say, oh, no, we haven't defunded the police. Actually, we're giving them more money. But $18 an hour, starting as a policeman, that's a joke. For what they have to go through, I went through it. I wouldn't want to be a cop now. You don't have the support of city council. That is so important. I was at a meeting at the building association where there was a captain of the state police, and I was talking to him. And he and I both agree that if you pay a policeman a fair wage and the city administration supports their policeman, now I'm not saying support a policeman that's dirty. No. A criminal's a criminal, whether he wears a badge or not. He should be taken down. But when you have police trying to do their job and they're not allowed to, even with this illegal alien stuff, they're not allowed to question a person, ask them their alien status or their resident status. Well, that's part of the deal of investigating a person, how you find out who they are, where they're from. That's very important to do. But you tie the policeman's hands, they can't do their job. They can't protect you. So there's, out of a 200-man police force in Las Cruces that's sanctioned by the city council, we are down 50 police. That means 25% of our police force isn't out on the street. And they're hiring other city employees, I think like 80-some employees, and they're not able to hire police. Well, You got to attract policemen. You got to show them that you support them. If they're right, and usually they are right. They're just trying to do their job. They don't want to get arrested. So you support the police, you pay them a fair wage. But our city council isn't doing that. So basically, when you're 50 officers down, 25% of your force isn't out there, that's defunding the police. Doesn't look like it directly, but it is. And you're hiring, if you hire one city employee, when you have a vacancy in the police department, you're not protecting the citizens of Las Cruces. So, we have elections coming up here. Now, I mentioned critical race theory that's being pushed by our education system, by our school board. We have 3 people running for school board that are totally opposed to this. Protect the students, absolutely. But to create a problem when there is none? No good. So the 3 candidates that I know personally that are running for school board, it's Abelardo, Abel Balcazar for School Board District 1. He's running against Jaramillo. I think he's the president of the school board. Henry Young, he's running for School Board District 2. And Eloy Francisco Macha, he's running for School Board District 3. These are 3 people that you get on that school board, your children's money, your tax money, excuse me, will be spent properly, your children will be protected, and you will be able to understand the curriculum that your children are taking. We have 3 candidates for city council. Like I said, they're defunding the police. These people will not defund the police. They will support the police. Bev Courtney, City Council District 3, Ronnie Cisneros, City Council District 5, and William Bill Bierman for City Council District 6. These people, if you elect them, they will cover your traditional, your Christian values and take you into account. We the people have the power. We need to take it back. This is Dave Gallus. I'll see you next week, and I don't know what the subject's going to be, but it'll be good.